it's all 10 commandments, but hurry up and wait. Let's have the state obey the first table of the law before it enforces the first table of the law. Distinction between sins and crimes. It's more so public expressions, and again, with this waiting patience, public expressions of blasphemy and idolatry. And then the only other thing I wanted to add to that I've also heard you and others, Durbin, say that I think also is helpful for people when they're thinking, what would Christian nationalism, what is this dystopian going to look like? Dystopia. There's also, in terms of case law, so homosexuality, for instance, and the death penalty. So $5,000 fine and 5 years in prison as a maximum for throwing a candy bar wrapper out my window. But I don't know anyone who's been in jail for 5 years for littering, right? And so I think, could you talk about that a little bit in terms of looking at the civil codes given to Israel and knowing that we hold to the general equity, and that's a thoroughly reformed confessional. That's Westminster. It's 1689 on my end of things. So it's not a one-step process that you take the civil codes in Israel and you just carry them over and drop them in America in 2022. But it's a two-step process. It's not that hard. You take the civil code and you take it not to America, but you take it first back to the 10 Commandments as the blueprint, the moral law of God that ultimately is stemming to these codes. Yeah. And then you apply that given culture and technology and these kinds of things. In America, and then even then looking at the penalties now, not the codes, but the penalties for breaking the codes, viewing these within a maximum penalty mindset. Could you talk about that for a moment?
Yeah. So when we talk about biblical law, we have to say it's not just when people think theonomy, they think that we're going to get a big crane, lift the Mosaic Code, and bring it over and drop it down on 21st century America. Right. No, that's not how it works, because we're taking the content of the laws. We are imitating and taking over the entire legal system. Okay, so the law of Moses was a case law system, right? It was a common, our name for it is common law. All right, so case law system means that you have a particular law that embodies a principle. You shall not muzzle the ox when it treads out the corn. Okay.
And every pastor likes the general equity of that.
Right. and that's what Paul is applying in the New Testament, is the general equity of that.
Exactly.
A laborer is worthy of his hire. Now, what happens is if my joke is, if I were president, and what a glorious 3 days that would be. Right. But if I had the authority to make law, I would not make it illegal in the state of Idaho to boil a kid in its mother's milk.
And a kid being a baby goat, not a kid.
A kid being a baby goat.
Right. Yeah. Just to clarify.
I wouldn't do that. The reason I wouldn't make that against the law is because nobody's doing that. Right. It's not an issue. It was an issue back in the day, but what's the principle? What's the general equity of that law? Well, you shall not take that which was given by God as nourishment and life and turn it into an instrument of death.
That's right.
So it was lawful to take the baby goat and kill it and eat it. That was lawful. But you could not liturgically or ritually take his lifeblood, his nourishment, his milk, and make that the instrument of death.
Right.
You can't do that. So let's say I'm a Christian judge in a theonomic republic, and I hand down a decision that prohibits women from serving in combat roles. Okay, I could hand down a decision, and because it's a theonomic republic, I could say, no, women are not to serve in combat roles, and then cite the reference from Exodus, I think it's in Deuteronomy also, you shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Why? Because women are life givers.
Right.
Do not turn life givers into death dealers. Okay, so, and that's also why a lot of the warrior princess spy deadly female is kinky. It's kinky that way. They're trying to turn nurturers, women, life givers, into death dealers, and so that's the general equity of it. Now, when you do this, what King Alfred did King Alfred took basically the laws of Deuteronomy and made them the laws of England. Mm-hmm. And that worked because England was an agrarian society, much like Israel was. Mm-hmm. But that was the beginning of our common law system. And so common law doesn't require you to have something on the books that I wouldn't make a law saying you have to have a parapet around the roof of your house.
Right.
Because in our society, nobody goes up there.
Right. And every two-story structure, AKA a balcony, we do it. We already do it.
Correct. And if you didn't do it, and one of your dinner guests fell off a second-story deck, mm-hmm. then you should be liable at law for the damages. And I would have no problem as a judge citing the scripture. Mm-hmm.
Right.
All right. The scripture is authoritative because that's because a common law system or a case law system is a system that's based on precedent. Mm-hmm. So in Alfred's time, let's say a widow in Sussex had a case where the neighbor's dog ate her chicken, and it went to court, and the case was decided. And then 50 years later, someone's ox gored the neighbor's dog. The judge in that case would look back at the precedent, and he would see the principle, he would see the general equity of the previous decision and apply it in this new situation, as opposed to the secularist who wants to have bound volumes of regulations that anticipate every contingency. And if they didn't anticipate it properly and you found the loophole, you're off scot-free, because they're trying to be omniscient. They're trying to be omnipotent. They're trying to be God.
All right. Stop twisting my arm. I know you want to hear the inside scoop. Here it is, the glorious vision of Right Response Ministries for the first half of next year, 2023. We have not one, not two, but three massive endeavors that we will accomplish by the grace of God. The first you already know about. It's our Theonomy and Postmillennialism conference. This is selling out incredibly fast. By the time this commercial airs, you may not even be able to get a ticket. I really don't know. So don't waste another moment. Go to rightresponseconference.com, rightresponseconference.com to join us for the Theonomy and Postmillennialism conference next year. Now, this is where you come in. We need your help. Our next two endeavors are, number one, a documentary style film, and number two, a brand new studio. Both of these things are seeking to accomplish one primary goal, which is excellent, high quality, glorious Christian media. We are tired of as Christians doing things poorly. We've done our best with what we have, but by God's grace, we want to do even better. This is not going to be just another video. This is not going to be a sermon or an interview or a podcast, but we're going to make a documentary style film. And we're going to be hiring Nathan Anderson, the director of On Earth as It Is in Heaven, a very, very successful postmillennialism documentary that's on Amazon and YouTube, came out a couple years ago. He's going to be flying in from Chile to help us direct this film. And our documentary is going to be on postmillennialism and theonomy, why it's biblically valid, why it's absolutely necessary, and why, by the grace of God, theonomy and postmillennialism are currently on the rise. So we're going to make this film, and we need your support. And not just this film, but we're going to make all of our videos and podcasting and everything we do here at Right Response Ministries better. We want to achieve the highest level of quality and Christian excellence that we possibly can. That's where the new studio comes in. This new film, our date that we're shooting for is that it would be complete and publicly available in May or June of 2023, next year. The studio, our goal is that it would be completely done in its construction and the equipment and the setup and the stage and everything by January, February of 2023 next year. We need your prayers. We need your encouragement. And for those of you who are willing to do so, we need your generous support. You can give towards these endeavors by going to rightresponseministries.com/donate. Again, that's rightresponseministries.com/donate. Thank you so much for all your help. God bless.